Thank you, Lola. Thank you so much. You can't hear me. Now you should be able to hear me. I'm rambling on and on about. I was just saying that I'm posting to Instagram so people who see my Instagram can pop over. I had muted myself earlier and then not unmuted. So hopefully you can hear me just fine. This is my weekend live stream where I paint a new photo every weekend, or new picture using a reference photo, typically that a friend or somebody I see on social media will send me or I find and want to paint. And so we're going to be doing that this evening. It is very informal. Thanks so much, Chase. Glad to have you on the live stream. Um, my grandmother, for those of you joining, was diagnosed with or tested positive for COVID um, 19 this, or I guess the coronavirus. And as of this time, is still without symptoms. So we are keeping our fingers crossed. She tested positive on Thursday. So obviously, still quite some time to go. She is in an assisted living facility. So, but I appreciate it, Chase. Thanks so much for your kind thoughts and for joining me this evening. Those of you that have been on before know how this works. It's kind of like an open house. You just pop in, pop out. And I will be starting a new painting in just a few minutes. I'm going to finish up this post to Instagram so people there can pop over and say hello as well. So give me just a minute here. I will share that on Instagram and then we will put the link in the comments so people can find us. And then we will post to my story. So over the next hour or so, people can find it and join the party. All right, should be good. Let me also do the same on Snapchat. All right, if you are interested in following, um, thanks so much, Shell. I appreciate it so much. We are keeping our fingers crossed for sure. All right, let me see if I can pull up my other app. And all right, so let me get my little apron on so that I can hopefully keep my clothes paint free. And then put a camera up over my shoulder so y'all can see me. Let's see. Let's do front camera. Go back. Okay. All right. I think I have this set up. We will, let me see here. Look at the preview. Left, nope, I think I have to flip it. There we go. Now I'm going to switch camera views for y'all. Okay, everybody. There we are. So you can see my workstation and I can see all of y'all. Okay, this is the reference photo. Thanks so much to my student Alec, who often pops in and says hello for this reference photo. I'm going to put the actual photo up here because I know it distorts it a little bit on my screen. I'm using this screen as the reference. That way you all can see what I'm painting as we go. This is going to be a challenging this will be a challenging painting just because it has the fog, which I'm not really sure how the best way to create that illusion is. There's not a lot of color variance also, because it is kind of dawn, I believe, and the light is coming kind of center of the photo forward and kind of backlighting everything, but it's just an absolutely beautiful fall photo. So, or winter maybe. So I thought I would give it a try just because it's so pretty, and we'll see what we can do. So I started this here kind of jotting or kind of sketching out the photo so you can kind of see some basic composition that I put in just to try to see how everything would be laid on the canvas, because obviously this canvas is a little bit of a different dimension than the reference photo. So I want to work on that and see how that goes. Oh, and I just realized I was painting earlier and I have a dirty palette. So we will just mix in among all of that painting. Let me see. Oh, I already took it in the other room. But I was painting this afternoon, finishing um, the sunset painting that we had done last week. So if you were here for that and saw we did part of the sky, I repainted the sky and put in the trees and the horizon line. So you can go over to my Instagram and see that. If you don't follow me, you can do so at Stephen E. Rice, Stephen with a V, E middle initial, Rice, R-I-C-E, and you can check that out as well. So those of you that have been on before know how this works. It's really informal. I like chatting with you. I like painting. So feel free to ask questions, give suggestions, just chat about what's going on. We just got back from a couple of days down on the Gulf Coast in Florida, in Destin, Florida. Got some sun. Actually, you can see my horrible chest there. I should know better. See where you can see where I got a spot of sunblock. Um, I am crazy protective of my skin as when it comes to that kind of damage because I basically just don't want skin cancer. And was really good. SPF 50 the whole time. And apparently, the last time I went out, I just somehow missed spraying my chest. I don't know how that happened. I got my back, I got my shoulders, face, everything. And I was in the water maybe 30 minutes, and then sat down under the umbrella, and that was what was going on my stomach and chest. So, eek, ouch. Yeah, don't recommend. 10 of 10, don't recommend. But we will get through it. We will persevere. And fortunately, that doesn't affect how we paint. So, other than just being in pain. All right, so the first thing with this photo we want to, or that we need to think about is, let's see, is the sky moving forward. So I think what I want to do is just lay in the sky. It is a muted kind of blue-gray, which is a real easy color to mix. So I'm going to do that real quick. Take a little bit of blue. Usually that is just a tad of blue. Let's take a little primary blue, see if that'll work. And white, mostly white, and a little bit of maybe a little black. to give it a gray, a little bit of gray. We don't need very much blue at all. Again, I think the beauty of this photo is in the composition, not the colors, obviously. Although there are some beautiful browns down in the foreground, but the sky is really desaturated. It's that beautiful blue. That's just very, very desaturated. Yeah, it's not very deep blue. So, all right, so loading up the brush as much as possible because we got a lot to cover. So you can see it's just a very muted blue, almost a baby blue. So let's come in here. The highest points of the blue are in the corners. Over on this side, which I just realized y'all are, let me move this a little bit. Put this up here so you can see everything I'm doing. Ah, hi Lola. Yes, welcome. I'm so glad to have you, first time viewer. I am using acrylic. Yes, so my story is I started painting about 3 or 4 months ago during the initial quarantine. Well, I guess it's been a little more than 3 months, but probably April or May timeframe. I just needed something to really creative to do. I haven't painted before really, but I just needed something creative that I could do really for my mental health and that I didn't have to necessarily be good at. So I started watching YouTube tutorials. I still do quite a bit of that. And this is just kind of my journey. I decided to start with acrylics because I had some in my house and they were still good. And now that I've learned a little bit, they dry very fast, which is difficult, more difficult than in that regard than oils. However, I figure if I can learn how to paint with acrylics and paint fast enough with acrylics, then when the time comes that I want to really dive into oils and all that oils offer, there's a little more obviously with oils in prep and really in obviously the time in making sure that you allow them to dry in between layers and different things. So that I know those challenges are coming, but that is the reason I use acrylics, at least at this point. So yes, I'm using acrylics. They have their own challenges, but also their own benefits. So that is what's going on. Yep. So let's lay this first set of color, just kind of blend in. Oh, I got some. That happens. Ooh, I need my little. So I use old t-shirts as paint rags. Want to put one of those on my knee so that I have a rag available. Okay. So we got some sky laid in. There's going to be some light clouds, but we got some basic blue on. All right, now, so Lola, I'm curious. Are you an artist, or you just saw my live stream and joined, or what made you interested in jumping on to see what I'm up to today? Or how did you find me? Was it through YouTube? I know you're watching on YouTube, so I'm really curious kind of how you found me. Because I always thought nobody's going to watch live streaming for a couple of hours, but people stop in and say hello and pop in, pop out. So it's kind of fun. All right. So here's what we have. You can see with my drawing, it's not very thick. You can see some of my drawing behind there, which is fine. Now I think coming forward, I think we want to lay in um, some of this foliage in the background, the trees that are in the background. They're not very defined. They're very muted. It's mostly just the shapes. And so I want to plug some of those in, as well as this kind of tan brownish color that's really diffused as well, to get some of the composition laying in, just so we feel we're in a good space composition wise. Um, Soft pastel artist. Excellent. Very cool. Maybe you can give me tips then. Um, Soft pastels. Excellent. I will. Do you have Instagram, or do you have somewhere where your work is displayed? I can check it out. Would love to do that. Also, what kind of medium are soft pastels? Is it a type of paint? I'm just ignorant. Um, I'm really curious. That's really interesting to me. Also, definitely encourage you to jump into acrylics. Relatively inexpensive. Um, at least I do. I mean, I just use the basic acrylics you can get from any um, art store or craft store. At some point, I may want higher quality painting, but right now, where I'm learning and I'm just putting paint on canvas, the basic acrylics have been just fine. But definitely encourage you to jump in. Um, that is very cool. Okay, so let's mix. I'm trying to decide what color I want to use for. Bob, welcome. Glad to have you. Thanks for stopping in. So this is actually a photo one of my students at ASMSA took. I teach, for those of you who may not know me personally, I teach at the Arkansas School for Math, Science, and the Arts. I am not an art teacher. I don't claim to have any specific skill in art. However, I teach entrepreneurship and a communications class there. So to answer your question, Bob, one of my students took this. I believe he's from Smackover, Arkansas. And this, he said, is his front yard. Can you imagine y'all going out at your front door and seeing this beautiful pond? This is probably fall, or it looks like winter in Arkansas. But the cold creating that mist at kind of daybreak, really beautiful, really beautiful. Um, oh, excellent, Lola. That makes sense. I was thinking it was some sort of kind of chalk type medium. Um, that's very cool. Yeah, I encourage you to try acrylics. The thing you have to be mindful of is they dry very very quickly. So, which is great though, because if you make mistakes in acrylics, you can just paint over and start over, or do sections over, and it's not gonna hurt anything. Like right now, this paint is already pretty much totally dry. So, very quick. All right. I have to decide. As you can tell, and you will know, all of you will know this, that I kind of postpone or procrastinate when I don't know exactly what to do. So I'm trying to figure out this color of these trees in the background. They're about halfway down your reference photo. Um, yeah, same here, Lola. I don't really. These aren't. I'm mostly learning, so I'm curious. Do you post them anywhere? Do you post your what you're doing on Instagram or on um, anywhere? If not, that's cool. But I'd love to check out what you do. And if not, I encourage you. Might as well put it on Instagram or Facebook or wherever. People, you'd be surprised how much people enjoy watching one's development as an artist. Okay, so I need to go in and mix a color. I think I'm gonna just do like a grayish brown, um, and mix kind of a grayish brown. Let's take some white and some. I had some gray mixed earlier. In a few minutes, I'll run out to my front room if y'all will be patient. Maybe when I when I get to a point where I need to switch my water out, and I'll bring in the painting I worked on this afternoon. It was what we did the last time I was online. It was my first attempt at a sunset painting, and I had to repaint the top of the painting. Um, and so yeah, that's what we did today. Earlier when I wasn't online, I kind of did some finish work because I try to do a different photo or a different picture every time I live stream. That way, if you pop in, you don't see the same thing over and over. So I was doing some finish work on that painting. I think it's probably one of the best I've done so far. It was a lot of fun. I'm I may have missed it, Lola, earlier. Did you say where your actually this? Okay, can y'all see this? This color I mixed. I just realized this is probably the color I want to use for this the grass, kind of the brown grass on the far end of the pond. So I think I'm going to lay that in since I got the right color here. I'm going to lay that in real quick and then come back to the trees. So let me do that. Lola, I'm curious how you found me, or how was it through? I may have missed it. Was it through the YouTube algorithm, or how did you find my live stream? Because I'm always curious to know people who find me, beyond like family and friends at this point. Um, really glad to have you. Okay, so just laying in this kind of initial layer, it's kind of a whitish brown. Then we got trees coming in right there on YouTube. Cool. Well, I am glad that YouTube is kind of showing, because I'm not, I have very few subscribers on YouTube, but I'm excited to kind of see and build organically over time, um, and see what happens on YouTube, because yeah, that is awesome. Okay, so as you can see, everybody, so I went ahead and put kind of the brownish ground in there, at least the blocking for it. Let me see if I can mix now a little bit darker, kind of grayish brown color. Yeah, I think this is kind of the color I want. What do y'all think? See this kind of, we have the brown, and then from that brown I added a little more black just to give me more gray. I know my lighting in here is bad, but you can see. Um, let's see how that looks for the trees in that far distant background. Let's just kind of plug those in and see what happens. I'm using just a very, very, very small kind of rounded brush. It's actually like a little tiny filbert brush. My camera doesn't want to focus very well, but that's uh, that's what's going on. Okay, so let's plug in this kind of groundwork. It's a little it's a little dark for what I want, but starts to create some separation. Very cool, Lola. I appreciate you checking out what I'm doing. Um, if you want to check out, there's a few other artists I found that you might want to check out. There's a guy that's really, he does mostly landscapes, but he's really good, um, called Kevin Hill. And so you might check out his stuff, Kevin Hill on YouTube. You might check out his channel. Um, and yeah, might see he's kind of a somebody I have watched for the last couple of months. Kevin Hill. And there's also a guy in, I believe, Australia or New Zealand who I really like named Andrew Tischler. I think it's Tischler. Tischler. He does mostly works in oil, but very, very talented artist. So definitely check those out if you're looking for some. I don't know what kind of painting you hope to do or what kind of art you currently do, but those are a couple that I really have enjoyed. And I'm going to take these all the way over here, some of this. Okay, what I did, y'all, is I did kind of a muted, I did gray and then some added some white to it. Um, I'm getting I think I'm getting too much of a hard line between my blends, which I don't really like. So I'm going to try to soften that a little bit, but we will see. Um, okay, let me show you what I've done. Okay, so I blocked in kind of the grayish trees in the background and the brown. I'm not sure if that's going to work because it's so light, but I can bring some white forward with some gray. That's the great part about acrylics. See, it's almost dry, and so I can start to mute this out if it's too much, or if I feel it's too much. Okay. Oh, wow. I'm impressed with people who can do pets are difficult to me at least, and any animals. And humans is that's one thing eventually I want to tackle, but ooh, yeah, that's gonna take a while for me. I'm impressed. Hey there, Alec. Glad to have you. Hope this turns into doing your image, your beautiful image, justice. Figured nothing like the present. I just need to bite the bullet and jump in. Ooh, I am like burning up. All of a sudden, my heat is like blasting. I'm gonna go check my thermostat, y'all. Ugh. I'll be right back. And I'll grab that painting while I'm out. I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. I'm back. Y'all, it was not the furnace. It is just, I mean, the furnace is on, but I am just having hot flashes or something. Oh, that's cool, Alec. Very cool. Well, it's definitely a beautiful one, and hope I can get the effect right of the lighting, because that's the star of this picture. So y'all, while I grabbed some water, I checked the thermostat, and I went and grabbed the picture that I worked on in the last live stream. Some of you who were joined me last time may have seen me start this sunset. I really didn't like the top of the painting. It was, the clouds were just not right. The color, so I repainted all of that this afternoon from about here up, and then added some detail work, and then went and added the horizon line and the trees. So you can kind of see what I did this afternoon. And those of you who were on the live stream last time, you get to see the finished product. Even though I didn't want to bring it onto another live stream and do all of that on live stream, you get to see kind of what it was. And this was my first attempt at a sunset. And one of my friends actually sent me another one kind of very similar, where there's trees in front but the colors are different. So at some point I may do this again, maybe on a, or that one I may do on an Instagram live stream in the middle of the week. Those of you who weren't here at the beginning, I do, whenever I have time during the week, on in the evenings I do Instagram live and paint on Instagram, and usually different photos or different pictures than I'm painting on the weekend. So, yeah, that's what we did last time. So, thank you very much, Lola. I appreciate it. Thanks so much, Alec. I'm really happy with how it turned out overall. So definitely improving my ability. Okay, let's go in and let me actually see if I can go in and create. I'm going to remix a little bit. See if I can go into those background trees and create some. Actually, I probably want to use my detail brush because this canvas is small enough. And I just actually practiced this technique on those trees this afternoon. But let me see if I can go in here and create some detail in the trees, because we kind of just blocked in the tree line. But I think by doing some simple detailing along the top of the trees, we can pretty quickly get the feeling of these trees in the distance a little bit better than just a block of color. I'm using a very muted brown gray for this, just trying to, and I'm essentially doing systems of dots to create some perception of tree structure out there in the distance with some of these that I've already done. And it gets less detailed as we go down the line because they're further away. All right. Sort of pleased with how this is going. Okay. Okay. Sort of getting there. Gonna need some work, but the basics. Okay. Now, there's a very faint line, kind of shadow line along the ground. At that distance, kind of distant group of trees. Let's kind of see if we can give that illusion, because that will give us the illusion of like separation from the trees and the ground in the nearer background. Okay, so see how I put some kind of preliminary detail in there and then that line of separation there. Not sure if that's going to work, but we're going to try that. All right. Now, let's look at, I think we want to go to the next figure, which is this tree that is, there's that line of trees at the back, but then there's a tree that's kind of set forward. In order to do that, we're going to have to bring a little bit more color or saturation in the color. So I'm using the same base mixture, but I want to do some basically the same kind of technique, building up some color and some kind of feeling in this nearer, not feeling, but some distance. Bring it forward just a little bit in this tree that's, or bush or a group of trees that's a little bit closer. So that's what we're gonna work on. Let's see. Sorry, I had to lift this up and bring it out of, I guess I shouldn't bring it out of your view. Y'all have to be able to see as well. So, want to probably maybe I can use this larger brush to kind of, nope, still too. Give some body to this right here. And then it's kind of a rounder shape. Black is such a strong color that I don't want to use too much. But I do want to bring that forward. A little bit. Okay. Just some subtle, added a little brown to it. Okay, now let's go in with the detail brush and see if we can add in some detail to this shape so it looks more like a tree than just a blob of paint. Okay. All right. We're gonna let that be for now. Let's see. I do want to come back, get a little white and gray. Come in and kind of take that out. Okay, I think the next thing to do is lay in this shoreline, which will be a mixture of brown, black, and probably white, so it looks like a brownish gray. Just a tad. Okay, let's try this. Is it? Yeah. Need it even more, I think. It needs to be darker, but it needs to be less, more like, maybe even a little hint of green. Oh, shoot. Drop in brushes. Not a good plan. Don't drop brushes if you can help it. Okay. This goes back to this tree line here. Now, there's this kind of almost kind of a bluish, light, very light color that is actually is the pond. So let's block that in a little bit. That way we can kind of blend these colors together. And we'll bring it all the way back, even though we know it's there, but it's hidden in shadow. So we'll just cover the canvas all the way back, and then most of this will be covered up, but then we have the main blocking in for the pond. Okay. Did y'all do any? I have to figure out a way to make these live streams a little more engaging other than me just like chatting at you. I don't know. I need segments or something that, like, I don't know. Something a little more fun. Although I enjoy the painting, obviously, but I can understand, like, just for you all to just watch can be a little boring. Yeah, boring. Okay, so I'm gonna bring in some more. This kind of brown, actually a black. I want to start laying in some, whoops, this tree shapes. Oh, awesome. Thanks. I am glad you're here watching this. I hope it, like, ultimately, I hope that people are inspired to, try their own hand at whatever, or it inspires their own art. So I don't like that at all. It's a little too, it's a little too much. Well, we will take this out of there, but we'll keep a little bit of it. Probably should have started this. Locking in some of this. See, I'm doing everything backwards, but again, with acrylics, we can fix it. Just wait for it to dry and paint over it if we don't like how it ends up. But these are all the way back in here is fairly dark shadows, so we'll get darker except for the shoreline then really pops up. There is a fairly significant tree right in here. So I want that there. At least a rough block of it. Yeah, the paint's already drying on my palette, so I'm just kind of doing crisscross strokes back here just to give some difference of kind of the depth and shadow, just to try to get the shadow somewhat correct. And then, because a lot of this will be covered up with, hopefully, covered up with whatever I end up using for my fog technique. That's what we're shooting for, at least. Get some composition correct, get some basic structures in, then we can come in. And really what I'm learning and that I just need to practice and get better and better at is all of this pre-work, like blocking in, getting the tones right, getting the composition right, getting the obviously the color saturations correct. Those things are really important, and the better you get doing that earlier on in your painting, this is a mess still, but the better I get at this, the easier then the detail work at the end becomes, and the whole painting just really comes together. That's what I learned from the sunset painting. It took a lot of time to do all the clouds and get it how I wanted, but then once it was pretty much there, plugging in the trees, getting the thing set, and all of a sudden the painting just really took off. So that's kind of what the focus is. um, I am like dying when I look down. I'm looking at my computer here that's hooked to this. That's where my software is, where your comments are. So that's kind of why my habit is to look down there. Um, Obviously, don't want to miss any comments. But hello, if anyone new has joined, we are just trying to get the basics of this composition in. Um, Now I want to blend out any of the hard lines. That's the other thing with, notice with acrylics, see how hard those lines are, and they dry very fast because they are because they're acrylic and that's what they do. So um, yeah. No, this is agua. This is a Sunday night and I teach tomorrow. So yeah, plus nobody drinks Grey Goose in a goblet like this. That would be a lot of Grey Goose. But I'm like burning up. I think it's this also this kind of burlap apron I have on, and I have socks on, and it got cold here in central Arkansas this week. And so when I came up from Florida into this weather late last night, I got all of my like jersey flannel uh, wear out and started getting all my sweaters and everything. And so I put on a long sleeve shirt and flannel pants and everything. And so, yeah, I may have overreacted. Although, if I were to open this window, it's probably pretty chilly out still. Let me see. But it might be nice to have a little fresh air at my back. So, yeah, because I think it's like maybe 60s, 50s or 60s out. So I'll get a little cool air. But yeah, all of that. So goblet, goblet. Yeah, the big old tumbler was the word I was looking for. Tumbler of Grey Goose. No, it is agua. It is all agua pura. And so yeah, it is good water. So okay, we have some lines. I don't like how it is, but it's not making me cry. So I want to lay in the foreground. I think in order to do that, all of this I'm going to do kind of a muted greenish gray color to block in that color. So let me actually mix with my bigger brush a brown, because then I can lay pretty much anything on top of that. Oh, that's a lot of green. Ooh. Okay, where's the white? Bring it in. White, white, white. Okay. Mix some water in. Okay, let's go in and just lay in our shoreline here. This is a bright, bright shoreline. Then we'll have the basic, outside of the trees that are in the very, very front, which those will be kind of the final things we add to this painting. We'll have our essential composition laid in, and then we can go back and look at like what we like, what we don't like, and hopefully fix some of those things. Do y'all hear my laundry chimes going off? I'm washing all my fall winter wear so that I can have warm clothing. Okay. Don't quite like this. I think it goes a little more this direction. It's a little more gradual. Um, However, I may have to let that dry to fix it. There's kind of good question, Lola. I have not tried that. I should. I have just used water mostly just because that's what I had when I started, and I haven't gone and sought out and tried different mediums as far as yeah, some mixing mediums that would probably make this easier. Um, I should probably just do it, but I just haven't. But yeah, that you're absolutely right. It would be really smart to do so. Um, However, I'm getting where I'm kind of used to how quick it dries with just water and the paint, and I'm getting accustomed to that, so I know kind of what I have as far as mixing. But yeah, the biggest challenge for me is obviously blending and mixing. Um, so would make sense to do that, but I have not done it. Need to look into that at some point. If I ever get famous, I have to give you a portion of the earnings from this video. Great. Yeah. The earnings from this video, the chances that there are ever any earnings from this video are like this big because I think it takes 1,000 or 5,000 subscribers on YouTube just to even monetize at all. And then it would be really unlikely that people are going to watch live streams that are this long and that have already happened. But who knows? It could happen. And if I ever sell this painting for lots and lots of money, I will definitely give you a 10% cut, Alec, for your encouragement. Although your encouragement and pressuring me and hassling me to paint originals early on pushed me over that edge to try something different than other people's tutorials. So I do have to give you props where they are deserved. You pushed me to try different things and to really force myself to kind of learn and figure it out as I go. There's no tutorial of how to do this, which is clearly why I'm stumbling my way through. So, yeah, that is really that was really helpful. Even though at the time I was just like, I'm not ready. I'm not ready. I still feel that I'm not really ready on most occasions. So, okay. Let me figure out. I'm not sure what to do next. Maybe clean up these trees a little bit. Yeah, let's see if we can do that. There's a mix on my palette that I really like, but it's of course dry already. So let me add a little paint, which is the burnt umber. And white and green. A little bit of green. Okay. Yeah, there's kind of this brown, green, white that I like. Now, let me take the detail brush, load her up. What I'm going to try to do is create some images or some of these shadows or reflections, I mean, in the pond. Okay. Now, I want to go in and take this same color in here and fix some of this. Take it out. Because I like this particular blend of color. We're basically putting some negative space back into this painting. Okay. Now, let's extend this back in. Add a little more saturation to this, and we can give some shadows to the reflection. There's kind of also a greenish tint to this edge of this far bank. So let's blend that in a little bit. That'll give us in time some lighter spaces and darker spaces here in the background. All right. Much appreciated, Chase. Thanks for the kind encouragement. All right, let me show you what I've done. Still kind of a hot mess, but you can start to see some of the layers emerging. And hopefully, as we build this, then we'll be able to build up these layers. That's the intent, at least. I totally understand. Absolutely. I'm central, so I'm an hour behind you. Are you, what part of Michigan are you, Lola? I used to live in southern Wisconsin, and we did the UP, kind of up the UP and back one summer. But I haven't been, I've been to Grand Rapids and a couple other places in Michigan, but not very far into the state. So appreciate the kind words and the subscription. I really appreciate having you. Look forward to chatting with you more. And definitely, if you decide to start doing some acrylic work, let me know how that goes, and if I can help or answer any questions, would love to do so. And have a great evening and great start to your week tomorrow. Okay. All right. So that's where we are, y'all. Um, Now, what I want to do is, since I have this nice kind of greenish brown color, I want to go in and start putting some lights, again, some kind of negative spaces into this big block of blech that I put in over here. Um, Eventually, this will be all, it's going to be foggy anyway, which is this kind of, it's actually this kind of color. So let's kind of play with that a little bit. I'm going to put this, we can put definitive kind of spots along here, kind of mute some of those hard lines I was talking about because they'll disappear into the background anyway. Um, I was thinking, I've been a little probably too obsessed with how to create this fog, this illusion of fog. But the reality is, fog is just water vapor that reflects the light, right? So, um, as long as I give the perception of the light coming across that should work. But we will see how that actually works. Southeastern Michigan. So that's down right on, I guess, my geography's right. Indiana, Ohio border. All right. This. Just kind of doing haphazard strokes here so that some of that dark, this dark blob shows through. And I think that's the beginning of our fog right in there, is this kind of greenish brown color that reflects. But yeah, I don't know, so I'm just kind of like testing the water, so to speak. Okay, now, so we have this kind of more green, brown, reflection area. And then on this side of the pond, about to this level, we have more of a, it's the more distant. So it's still this kind of color, but it's almost like it's a little bit of the green, the brown. Let me bring in the green, the brown, the white. I'm remixing basically the same color on top of where it was so that I can try to get as close to the same color as possible. But then it's actually more gray, so I need to bring in some black and white. I need quite a bit of white. So that it's significantly lighter. It's not quite there. Okay. Let's see. Let's try it. Taking my, well, I guess I can use this brush. So let me lay in. I don't know if it's enough to be be seen, but I think it is. Because it's wet paint, it gives me the opportunity to blend in that shoreline a little bit. Okay. Okay. Little by little, I think we're getting there. So here we are. So notice how I've laid in, this is kind of a greenish brown because it's closer, and then this is a more muted grayish brown, a reflection of these trees in the background. So yeah, because the picture is, um, there's not a lot of bright colors on it. So I'm not I'm not totally unhappy with this right now. I think we can add some additional, like once it dries, there will be additional things to add, or ways to make it look more like the photos. So let's breathe a little bit and let me step back and take a look. Okay. Yeah, I really like the compositions. I mean, for the most part, I like the composition. Um, I think it's well laid for the size of canvas and everything. So now what I want to do is spend a little time working on these trees in the background. Um, so let me mix some more color. Let's do a brown, little black, little blue. Okay, so I'm not sure that this is dark enough yet. But I'm pretty sure it's not actually. But we will all continue to work towards the darkness. My black is run out, so let's open the big old tube of black. And let's do some blue. I rarely, if ever, mix, like, just do a straight black color, because it doesn't often appear actually in nature. So I like to use other colors to mix and just add black as a moderating color, if that makes sense. So blue and brown, and then the black, it tones down the black. So see this color here, it's actually a blue brown color as opposed to a black. And it's darker on my palette than it looks on the screen, but I think this is going to be a good color to come in here. And create this dark, kind of the darkness that it just kind of blends up. It's all shadow down in here. We don't really see. Okay, now if we take some this same color on a detail brush, we can start to make the details of the trees, the tree line here. Because it's on the far side of the pond. Hey there, Matthew. So glad to have you join. Thanks for popping in. I know it's kind of starting to get late, but I appreciate you swinging by. So these trees are in the background, but kind of background foreground. So, okay. This is just going to be painstaking work, y'all. So I apologize in advance because I'm basically just dabbing in all of the rough shapes of the trees, trying not to cover too much of the background. So it's almost like a dotted pattern, which is going to take forever. However, it gives a much more realistic look to the trees as opposed to just taking a bigger brush and blotting it in, which a lot of artists do, which is fine. But I've been experimenting with doing more of this type of work. I'm also wondering if it's not too dark because it on the canvas it looks like it's black even though it's not, and I'm wondering if that is going to be a problem. So I adjusted a little bit Brought in some brown to try to tone this down a little bit. I just want to get the right shape for the most part, because then there's going to be a big tree kind of right in the middle there. So a lot of this will fade in the background once that tree is put in. But it's going to be hard to put this in once the tree is there, so kind of want to get it laid in right now. That's the intent, because then each stage of the game I can see, okay, is my composition, is the way I want it to look, is it working, or do we need to make adjustments? I think tonight what we're going to try to do is get these trees put in and the background as good as possible. We may do some of the front depending on how much time I have. I want to be done in the next probably 10 or 15 minutes, at least for now. But then we may want to, and then probably another time I'll do the big trees. But this might have to be a double. I don't like to paint the same picture on different live streams, but this might have to be one that I work on this week if I have time during the week, or maybe next weekend. Oops. It's a little. Oops. All right, we're getting there. We're getting there. I promise, promise. Little by little. Okay, so I think the intent was good, but the result, not so much. What I'm trying to do now is eliminate some of this detail because we want the feeling of obviously the leaves of the trees, but we don't want like here, I'll show you. It's easier to explain. So I want the feelings of trees, but I don't want like big blotches of dots, if that makes sense. So we need to fill some of this in, but we still want the, you know, some of the sky to show through. Um, yeah. So anyway, that's what I'm wrestling with now, and wondering if I took these trees up a little too high. But how many years have? I've been painting since May this year, so I don't have like I don't really know what I'm doing, um, and that's one of the reasons I started because I needed a creative outlet that I didn't need to be perfect at. I didn't need to pretend like I knew what I was doing. Um, so yeah, I started watching YouTube tutorials probably March or April, and then started painting that about that same time, April or May. I think once when I was like 10, my grandmother, um, during the summer, we would visit my grandmother, and she had a friend who did like Bob Ross type paintings. And so I think my brother and I went when we were like 8 and 10 or 10 and 12 and did a painting lesson. She basically laid in the background, and we took the palette knife and did some happy trees and mountains with the fan brush and the palette knife, and we learned some basic techniques. Um, but obviously, she did most of it. So, um, yeah, that's kind of. Oh, that's really kind. How did I get this great this quick? A big thing is I started like just trying things just to get used to the medium and the paints and the brushes and everything. Um, I started copying tutorials. I did about eight, maybe 6 or 8 tutorials that I literally copied. Um, and you can look back like through my Facebook or Instagram posts and see those. Um, and then my one of my students, Alec, who I think may still be on this, he was the one who sent me this reference photo, but he kept telling me at school every day, Mr. Steve, you gotta like paint original stuff. Like, when are you gonna paint an original? Quit duplicating other people's stuff. And so um, I started collecting reference photos, and now I have probably 20 reference photos in a folder. I have more reference photos that I want to paint than I have time to paint right now. And so, to answer your question, Chase, I think one of the reasons I have been able to give the perception that I'm improving quickly, and I can recognize I'm improving to a certain extent. Um, I am very intentional about how I'm doing this process. So I go, for example, one of the things that I want to be able to paint is water. I want to be able to paint water effectively. Um, and so I have watched probably 8 or 10 tutorials in the last couple of weeks on just how to paint water, how to paint reflections off of water, how to. Last night I watched one on the refraction, how to mimic the refractive light property in water. Because when you see a wave or a ripple on the water, one side of the wave is the reflection of the sky, and the other side is kind of the window into the water. And so, really understanding that concept at a conceptual level, and then being able to duplicate that on the canvas, then helps you create that. And so, that's an example of what I'm doing in my head. So I'm breaking down, like, how do I create what I want to appear. And so really I look at it more, less like a that I'm improving necessarily. What I do think that I'm doing that is helping me become better is I'm learning, I'm taking my problem solving skills that I have outside of paint and the paint world, and I'm applying those to colors and shapes and perspective and the different components of a painting. And I think that's what is allowing me to progress more quickly maybe than others, is I'm not just jumping in and saying, let me paint this photo. I'm really doing the mental exercise of how do I create the perception of depth in this between the different layers. And that's one reason I wanted to paint this picture, other than it's beautiful. I really wanted to practice, like, how do I create reflection on water and this misty background, but still in, more foreground, and one tree ahead of the other, and all of those things in my head. I'm problem solving and figuring out, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And like that earlier photo that I or picture that I showed y'all, I went and repainted the whole top because these clouds I put in first were way too pink, and it didn't look real at all, didn't look good at all. And so I just repainted the whole top part, and then laid it in again. And so I'll let a picture sit for a while and then come back to it and try to problem solve specific components of it. And then at some point I just say that's as good as I can do right now. But yeah, that's kind of what's going on in my head, and why it, I guess, appears that I can improve quickly is I'm constantly, during these painting sessions, and even ones that I'm not necessarily broadcasting, I'm constantly problem solving, like, how do I create you know a more realistic look in my paintings. And one of the things that I want to dive into at some point is photorealism. I want to really dive into painting things as real as possible. How do you create that? And I don't know exactly what that looks like, or how you do that, but I've started watching some and collecting, feeding the YouTube algorithm some of those things so that it will send me more examples of that, because I think I really want to do some I want to do some more animals. Eventually, I want to get good enough where I can try to do people, which is, I think, going to be the hardest part, because if I mess up trees like this, I can fix them. But if you mess up someone's face, it's clear it's clear that their nose is wonky, or, whatever. So that's, yeah, that is a little harder to fix than a wonky tree. So that's the deal. So, all right, let's let me show you. Okay, so this is where we are kind of here. Not at all happy with it yet, but the basic structure is there. The basic composition is there. I can keep playing with that. One thing I want to do, I'm kind of wrapping up, but I want to see if I can, since I have some brown on my palette, I want to go in right now and see if I can put in some of this. Oh, shoot, I just put way too much burnt sienna on my palette. I want to see if I can go in and put in some of this foreground. Warm this up a little bit, maybe with some green. Burnt umber, burnt sienna. So just kind of mixing in. There's definitely this reddish brown. So can I start? I guess up here is where it really, the kind of rough browns come in. I probably need to use my other brush. Yeah. Ooh, I like actually this. Can I tone this down a little bit? Go. I'm gonna go into this. Oops. I think that is too bright, but we can come in and tone it down. But there we go. All right, now I got the light, but I want to go back to the darker. Put some of this reddish brown into the foreground a little bit. I think we want our tree kind of right there, that center tree. we'll just give the, then what we can do is define these more and put more shadows in, but that gives us kind of something to play with. Um, okay. Ew, that is way too bright. Trying to lay in some of these grasses that are popping up in the water. Okay. We'll flesh some of that out. But it gives me somewhere to go with this. Okay. Here we are. This is where we're stopping for tonight, y'all. Still quite a bit of work to do, as you can see, but the main pieces are there. So I am not at all unpleased with this. I want to say thank you for those of you who have stuck in here the whole time, and those of you that stopped in to say hello. I appreciate the encouragement. As always, I just appreciate having you all stop in and hang out with me and taking an interest in this journey. It's something that I'm loving. I'm having a blast doing. And I just honestly wish I had more time to paint in the day. I wish I could ignore all the adult things I have to do, like earning money and paying bills and eating and exercising and sleeping, and just paint. But that is not the option right now. I need my beauty sleep so I can stay beautiful and young and hopefully heal this sunburn. I think I showed at the beginning, but I got a bad sunburn in Florida. Um, Noob mistake or just old man mistake. I somehow didn't realize or forgot to spray my chest and stomach. Ugh, it was bad. So, yeah, that's what we're doing. All right. If you would like to follow this journey, make sure you subscribe on YouTube. That's the easiest place. Every weekend, I try to do typically Saturday evening, but sometimes Sunday evening like this, a live stream. I do whenever I have time during the week on Instagram. I do just a simple Instagram live. I literally just put up my phone and paint a picture. I do different paintings that I do during the weekend. So definitely jump on if you see me on Instagram and you want to follow that during the week. That's where I'll be. If you don't follow there, you can do so at Stephen E. Rice. Stephen with a V, middle initial E, last name Rice, R-I-C-E. And you can follow me on Instagram. And I usually post the after photos or the progress photos there as well. So you can follow multiple different paintings that I'm doing um, because I won't do, like, I won't spend a lot of multiple uh, live streams on one image because I want you to be able to see different images, and I just have so many to paint. So those are the places to find me: YouTube and Instagram. Make sure you're subscribed there, and we will see you on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter next week, next weekend, probably Saturday evening, and then during the week on Instagram at Stephen E. Rice. Whenever I can carve a few hours in the evening, that is where I am. Thanks again so much. I appreciate you joining me, and I hope that you have a great week and a great evening. Take care, and we will see you on the next live stream.